Hello, boys and girls. Today you're going to meet our new puppet friend, problem solving Penelope. Come on over, Penelope. Can you guys say hi to problem solving Penelope? Hi, boys and girls. It's so good to see you. And today we're going to learn different ways to solve problems. That's right, Penelope. So I'm going to set you back down on your chair and we'll get to it. Okay. Here you go. Okay. So if you guys will remember, when we did our Kelso lessons, we learned that there's two types of problems. There's little problems and there's big problems. And I wonder if you remember the difference between a little or a small problem and a big problem. Think for just a minute. A small problem is a problem that you can solve on your own. You're smart enough and strong enough to solve the problem all by yourself. And a big problem is a problem that you need adult help. Fortunately, most of the problems that we have are small problems, so we can solve them on our own. But I have a problem solving worksheet or problem solving steps that I would like you guys to learn to help you when you're having problems. Okay? So if you'll notice in the picture, it looks like a traffic light. Okay, and this comes from the zones of regulation, which we've talked about that model of conflict resolution and problem solving before. But there's three steps. The first step is stop. The second step is opt. And the third step is go. So we're going to talk about each of those steps. Now, imagine for a minute that you're having a problem and you're really, really upset about it. Do you think that you are going to be in your downstairs part of your brain or your upstairs part of your brain? Think back to what we've talked about. Where do you think those strong emotions might come from? If you said the downstairs part of your brain, you're right. So, one of the first things that we have to learn how to do to solve any kind of problem is to make sure that we are in control of our emotions. And we've been learning some different things to help us. We've been learning that it's good to walk away. We've been learning that we can do the six-sided breathing or the lazy eight breathing or use a fidget or do some physical activity. All of those things can be very helpful in helping us to learn how to calm down so that we can use the upstairs part of our brain to solve problems. So the very first step says to stop. If you're having a problem, I want you to just tell yourself, stop. Now, if you're having a lot of strong emotions, you might have to walk away. You might have to do some deep breathing. You might have to do some other things first before you can start using your brain to think through the problem. If it's a smaller problem, you should be able to just say stop. And then the first thing you're going to think of is this a little problem or a big problem? And if it's a little problem, you know that you're going to be able to solve this on your own. Now, we have learned with small problems, little problems, that we can use these Kelso choices. And you can use the Kelso choices at home, or you can use the Kelso choices at school, or just about any place. Okay? So, step one, tell yourself to stop and think, is this a small problem or a big problem? If it's a small problem, you're going to go to step two, which is the opt. Opt stands for option, which also means choices. So once you tell yourself to stop, you're going to think, what are the choices that I have right now to solve this problem? And if you'll remember, we have a lot of choices from our Kelso wheel. Remember, go to another game, talk it out, share and take turns, ignore it, um, walk away, tell them to please stop, apologize, make a deal, and wait and cool off. Those are some of the choices that we have from Kelso. So we're going to think of a choice, and then we're going to also think of what could happen if I try that choice. Sometimes some of your options don't have really good results, or it doesn't really solve your problem for you. Okay. And then once you think of your option, then step 3 is go. That means you're going to try it. And it really is good when you have a problem to think of more than one option, because sometimes your first choice doesn't work out the way you think it's going to, or sometimes it doesn't solve your problem and maybe you thought that it would. So it's good to have more than one option or choice when you have a problem. Now, let me give you an example. Say, for example, that you went out to recess, it was really hot outside, you're really thirsty, you come back in, your teacher says, okay, you guys can go out in the hall and line up and get yourself a drink. You're standing in line, and then another student comes and stands right in front of you. He cuts in front of you, or she cuts in front of you and gets a drink. Okay? Now, is that a big problem or a little problem? It's a little problem. Okay. So, with that little problem, you have some choices. And probably you would be feeling frustrated. You might feel angry. You might feel disappointed. You're going to have some emotions, different emotions about that. Most people would if somebody just cut right in front of them. So, one choice you would have, or one option you would have, is to think, well, maybe I can just push them out of the way and say, hey, you cut in front of me, get out of the way, right? Now, what do you think could happen if you push them out of the way? Do you think that's going to make the situation better or make it worse? You're right, it's going to make it worse. Okay, so pushing them out of the way is not the right answer, and it's not going to help our problem. It's just going to make it worse. But that is an option or a choice. Okay, choice number 2 might be just to not say anything. Just they did it, you don't say anything, and then you just go on about your business. Okay, so what happens if I do that? Well, it is possible that the kid might do it again or on another day, or that the problem could keep happening. So even though it might solve my problem for that day, it may not solve my problem or help to prevent the problem from happening again. So, okay, it's a better choice than pushing the kid, but it doesn't necessarily solve my problem either. My third choice might be, what else do we have on the Kessel's choices? What about talk it out? Remember, we had talk it out. So we could say to her, our friend, remember, we're going to state our feeling. I felt frustrated when you cut in front of me. I need or I want you to get in the back of the line, right? We can talk it out and use that Kelso choice. Now, again, there's some things that could happen when we do that choice. We might say it and the person might say, "Oh, okay, I was just really thirsty. I wanted a drink," and they may go around and do it, or they might just keep drinking. Okay? And if they do that, then again, you have to think of what other option is there. You could talk to them again later and say, hey, I know you were really hot when you came in from recess and really thirsty, but it really made me feel frustrated when you cut in front of me. I need you to not cut in front of me again. Okay, you could talk to them again. It probably would be better too if you talk with them in private versus in front of all the other kids, because then sometimes kids act a little bit differently in front of all the other kids than they would if you talk to them about a problem just one-on-one. And then if it continued, of course, you could tell the teacher, let the teacher know. I've already talked to them and asked them twice, and they continue to do it. And then that's another way to solve your problem. Okay? So then, again, so once you think through the options, then you say, okay, that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to tell them, hey, I don't like it. You frustrated me when you did that. Please don't do it. Get back in line. Okay? So, again, as a reminder, you have your stop, your opt, and your go. Your stop, when you first have your problem, you got to tell yourself to stop so you can check in and make sure you're calm and think, is this a big problem or a little problem? If it's a little problem, you're going to think of your choices. And remember, Kelso's choices are some great options for you to solve different kinds of problems. And again, it's good to think of one or two different things, okay? And then your go, or once you think of your choices, you're going to think of what could possibly happen if I try that choice, and just try to pick one or two that have um, positive outcomes, or one or two options where you think it's going to solve the problem or something good is going to happen, and then you just try it. Okay? Now, say for example that you have a problem, but it's not a little problem, it's a big problem. Okay, so at that point, your option is going to be to really tell an adult. So you have to think about, if you have a problem at school, who are the adults or the grown-ups that you can go to for help? And we've talked about this many times as well. You can go to your teacher, you can go to Mrs. Berman, the principal, you can go to me, Mrs. Harris, the school counselor. You can basically go to any adult or grown-up that works at the school and ask them for help. And if your problem doesn't stop, if it continues, whatever the problem is, then you should always tell another adult and keep telling an adult till it stops. Now, another thing you could do is tell your parents. Now, it might not fix the problem right then if it's a school problem, but your parents can get involved and talk with school staff too, so that we can find ways to solve your problem. Okay. Now, if you have a problem with your brother or sister or someone at home, you should also, you could try the Kelso's Choices. I know a lot of times brothers and sisters might have problems. Maybe your brother or sister took your toy. Maybe your brother or sister won't share the computer or won't share a game with you, or maybe your brother or sister keeps saying something or doing something that they know is making you angry. Again, you tell yourself stop. You want to make sure that you don't say something mean back, or do something mean back, or do something that's going to make the problem worse. You tell yourself stop. And then again, think, is this a big problem or a little problem? If it's not a problem that involves safety or danger, then it's a little problem and you probably can solve it by yourself. Okay, you can again use your Kelso's Choices. Maybe I just need to tell my brother or sister, hey, when you call me names, it makes me feel sad. Please quit calling me names. Brother or sister, when you don't share toys with me, it makes me feel sad. I want you to share your game with me. Or, hey, I know we both want to play on the computer. How can we work this out? Hey, let's take turns. Let's share and take turns. That's one of our Kelso's Choices. And then if the problem continues, then you can maybe go to your mom or dad and say, we've tried to work it out by sharing and taking turns, but the other person wouldn't share, or the other person wouldn't take turns, or we couldn't find a schedule that worked for both of us. Because again, boys and girls, we want you guys to learn how to solve problems on your own. And the older that you get, the more you're going to have to depend on yourself to solve your own problems. And it feels good to solve problems by ourselves and on our own. That's part of growing up. But that being said, again, if you ever feel like it's a dangerous situation, always tell a safe adult. Or if you've tried several different ways of solving the problem and it's still not solving the problem, talk to a trusted adult. Okay? So, thank you, boys and girls, for listening. And I hope that you will try the stop, opt, and go problem solving strategies at home while you're at home for virtual school, and I would love to hear all about it. You can send me an email at harrisr@estacada.k12.or.us, or I would love to hear about it when we come back from school, so in the fall. So, again, thank you for listening, and I hope you guys are safe and well, and we'll